Hey everybody, this is Blake here, and I'm going to be reviewing Silent Hill Revelation 3D. I know that title rolls right off the tongue. Now you might be wondering, why am I not reviewing Cloud Atlas? Well, I did not watch Cloud Atlas. Why did I not watch Cloud Atlas? Because Cloud Atlas sucks. No, if you've seen the film and you liked it, don't be offended. It just wasn't playing at a convenient time. But even if it was, it just wasn't my cup of tea. The trailer really felt like it was trying too hard to come across as deep and thought-provoking. The narration, which was aiming to be poetic, instead felt phony and silly. Halle Berry was in it, and that's never a good sign. And the Wachowskis are really overrated. I don't get why people still hold them in high regard, but then damn M. Night Shyamalan, because I consider them to be the same kind of filmmakers. I think they have talent, they have a lot of creative ideas, but their ego has gotten so out of control that they can no longer filter the bad ideas from the good ideas, and since they have creative control over all of their projects, there's nobody to really reel them in. Now granted, M. Night's weaknesses are more prominent, I guess, but the Wachowskis haven't made a great movie in like 10 years. Speed Racer I thought sucked. The Matrix sequels were pretty weak. V for Vendetta was good, but I'm not sure if they deserve the credit for that since they weren't even the directors. But so I don't know, Cloud Atlas just wasn't appealing to me anyway. So instead I decided to watch a more normal bad movie, Silent Hill 2. This movie looked like it was going to be shit from the beginning, which was really sad because I think there's a lot of potential for a great Silent Hill movie. Now, I only played one video game, which was subtitled Homecoming. I own it. I could not get into the gameplay, but I thought the creepy imagery alone could sustain a full-length feature film. Horror movies don't need strong stories. I mean, it helps, and I'm not sure if maybe Silent Hill has a better story than I'm giving it credit for, but, and when it comes to just creeping its viewers out, I think the games provide enough material for that. Now, they already tried to make a movie back in 2006, and I'm honestly surprised they went through with a sequel because it wasn't that big of a success financially or critically. I only saw it when it was in theaters. But it's weird because when I try to break it down in my mind, I should love this movie. It has all the elements to be a great horror film. It has twisted gore effects, creepy and creative monster designs, real elaborate set pieces. The settings in general are very atmospheric. The CGI was really good, at least for that time. And it built up suspense really well. The acting was solid by at least most of the actors. The little girl I seem to remember being kind of a weak link. But it had a solid cast anyway with like Sean Bean. And but when I think about it, I don't remember the movie itself being all that great. Possibly the best live-action adaptation of a horror film, but when your competition is Uwe Boll and Paul W.S. Anderson, that doesn't say a whole lot. It's like they couldn't assemble all these parts correctly. Or when I read other people's reviews, they complain about the running time. The whole Sean Bean subplot was kind of pointless. I don't give a shit about like the changes they made from the games, but there was also some criticism directed towards the dialogue. So maybe if I watched it again, I would notice that a lot more and realize why it's not a great film. But I still thought it was pretty good for what it was. There's definitely some potential for a sequel, but it's obvious the studio really didn't give a shit. They slashed the budget from $50 million to $20 million. The director of the original dropped out. The writer, he ended up killing somebody under the influence or something, and he went to jail. So the replacement director also had to write the film, and it really shows that there wasn't a whole lot of time or money put into it. And that's really what killed this movie, because it could have been really good. But it wasn't. It was bad. It was really bad. But at the same time, I'm not really angry at it. It was almost like amusingly bad. But it's difficult to review because to really adequately cover everything, I'd have to point out every single scene and explain what is wrong with it. There's so much badness here. So I'll just do the best I can and hopefully deliver a coherent review. So let's start with the first act. Like the first 20, 30, or 40 minutes, I don't know what it was, they were really boring. It was obvious that the filmmakers were reluctant to actually get into Silent Hill, probably because it would cost so much more than the other scenes. So what is the basic story? Okay, the little girl from the first film, she escaped from Silent Hill between these movies and was put under the care of her foster father, who's played by Sean Bean. After they are attacked, apparently, by members of the cult from Silent Hill, somehow they could escape too. He decided to change their identities, and they move place to place, so she has no time to make friends, etc. Her current name is Heather Mason, and I believe his name is Harry Mason, which is, of course, a reference to the video games. But then he gets captured, presumably by the cult members from Silent Hill, so she has to return to Silent Hill and rescue him. But the first act is primarily focusing on her dream sequences. I mean, they have dreams, then dreams within dreams, then that's interrupted with a Pop-Tart scare. I've never seen that before. But, you know, unless your movie is A Nightmare on Elm Street, you can't sustain the story like this with just nothing but dream sequences. It starts to get really redundant and lazy. I mean, I'm not even joking. It seems like she moves from one dream sequence to another dream sequence, and it gets old fast. I didn't agree with a lot of the direction early on. There was no attempts at building suspense, but I got through it okay. I think really the biggest weakness with the first act is actually the love story. She meets a guy, and he's really interested in her, but she's kind of pushing him away. But they really do that typical, you know, this is true love shit, and the dialogue is really corny. The guy's acting isn't very good, probably because he didn't have a whole lot to work with. The main girl, she does okay, but it's like, oh my god, this is like Twilight. This is Twilight Bad here. I want to see the monsters. I don't want to see them romancing in any way, shape, or form. Then Sean Bean, man, I like Sean Bean. I think he's a great actor, but here he's obviously not into it. His best moments are when he just sleepwalks. His worst moments where he has to actually act. Oh, I felt so embarrassed for him. So once we get past the boring and clumsy first act, they get to Silent Hill, and the movie it's rushing through too quickly. It has no interest in, like I said, building suspense or atmosphere. It just get to the next action scene where, you know, in the first film you'd have the monster like slowly appear and it'd be like real creepy. Here it just jumps out at people. There's a lot of characters who are introduced who have no bearing on the story. They're just there to be victim fodder, but you don't even see their deaths half the time. So even though there's a lot of gore, most of that's in the dream sequences. When it comes to the actual characters getting killed, that really cops out and just has it done off screen. The special effects are decent. I will give it credit. The monsters are pretty creepy, and they're pretty much the same as the first film. But that's the problem. Everything we saw here, we also saw in the first movie, and they had more monsters. This one, it looks like a low-budgeted version of the previous film. But still, I thought they did a decent job when it came to the sets and the monster designs. Some of the action's decent, but the final fight is really corny and silly. I was laughing at it the whole way. Oh man, I was confused too. I gotta give credit to the director for actually trying to bridge the continuities between the movie and the video games. But for me, it backfired. I had no clue what was going on half the time. So there's like this key thing that turns people into demons. How did they find out they could escape Silent Hill with this elaborate ritual? I mean, were they just screwing around and like testing out, like, oh shit, man, this could get us out of Silent Hill? Or in the first movie, the cult, they were fanatical Christians, whereas in this one, they seem to be more demonic with whatever religion they're following. Now that's closer to the video games apparently, but I don't really get why they made the sudden transition. Is it because since the first cult pretty much died off in the first film, they decided to turn to another religion? I don't know. They skip through this information so quickly, and they hide it in cryptic dialogue that I honestly it was really hard to follow. So half of the script wasn't even necessary. Like I said, there's a lot of plot points that never go anywhere, or they have real retarded resolutions. So the script was a disaster. The direction was mediocre, and the guy actually has talent. He also did Death Watch, which I really liked, but that magic isn't brought to Silent Hill Revelation 3D. The 3D is actually pretty good. I will give that credit. It seemed to become less prominent during the second half, but I liked the earlier scenes, like where the ash really seems to be coming at you. I was like, damn, why is this fake ash getting on me? Then there would be a lot of scenes where like body parts would fly at the camera, or weapons would come at the camera. I thought that was a pretty well done aspect, but I would not recommend you watch this in the theaters. It's just a bad movie that sometimes is entertainingly bad. If you are really interested in the Silent Hill franchise, whether it's the previous movie or the video games, I'd say either watch it for free or at the absolute most wait till it comes out on DVD and rent it. But otherwise, don't go to the theaters to see it. If you do, it's weird because the 3D is good, but I don't think it's really worth spending extra money on. The movie itself is just, it's bad, it's clumsy, it's all over the place, and it's never scary. But I won't deny that sometimes it was entertaining. So that is that. If you'd like to read my written review, please check the link in my description. That is all. I'll see you guys later.